Learn how to pivot your business in hard times to produce next-level results. With Wayne Lee, president of Wayne Lee Enterprises, on today's episode of the Executive Wins Podcast. Welcome to the Executive Wins Podcast, where senior leaders share their biggest wins so you can get inspired and grow your business. Here's your host, Gordon Shepherd. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Gordon Shepherd. And I want to kick things off by telling you about the huge impact that leaders on this show are making in their work. Like Deborah Rosati, the CEO of Women Get On Board, who on episode 32 talked about her mission to help bring parity to corporate boards in Canada, as in helping to raise the mix of women on boards from the current 29% to a more proportional representation. Or how about Nick Nanos, the founder of Nanos Research, who on episode 30 talked about helping to hold up our democracy by providing objective predictions for federal elections. Along with those game-changing efforts are the stories from dozens of Canadian leaders who are making a big difference. And that is why I recommend that you check out our past episodes. Another reason to check out the archive? Well, the Executive Wins Podcast is the winner of the 2025 Best New Podcast Award in the Quill Podcasting Awards. It is a great honor, and is also a contributing factor in helping the Executive Wins Podcast pass more than 12,000 views on YouTube and more than 12,000 minutes of watch time. So I hope that you invest the time and join the other leaders who are listening, so you can get inspired and grow your business. On today's episode, you'll learn how to pivot your business in hard times to produce next-level results. With Wayne Lee, the president of Wayne Lee Enterprises. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our exclusive workshop called Wins and Losses: How Leaders Can Learn from Them to Grow Their Business. In this high-impact workshop, leadership teams learn how to reverse engineer past wins and losses using a proven 5-step system called the Anatomy of a Win to help them understand the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind past wins and losses. Once they master the system, then they can apply it to get more wins in the future and also avoid future losses. During this session, leaders will also learn how to make a wins and losses list, as well as finding new ways to authentically celebrate with their teams. I'll be your instructor, bringing 25 plus years of experience and a proven system that you can learn to grow the overall results in your business. It's available in half-day, full-day, and customizable formats, and it's really good for team building and corporate retreats. So if you are a leader who really wants to grow yourself, your team, and your entire business, then visit executivewins.com/workshops to learn more. And now on to today's show. We are lucky to be joined by Wayne Lee, a world-famous hypnotist, coach, and business owner who has positively impacted the lives of more than 1 million people around the world. You can learn about his work at waynelee.com. In this episode, you'll find out how Wayne pivoted his business from in-person to online during COVID. And more importantly, you'll also learn about the positive attitude that he had while he went through one of the toughest times in his business. Not only did he do the work, but he also listened to his own teachings to come to a place where he said to himself, I can handle this. It is a really important episode for all leaders to listen to, not only to learn from Wayne's story, but also to gain from the mindset shifts that allowed him to get great results. I also want to remind you that this interview follows a specific format that I created called the Anatomy of a Win to help you learn the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind every business win that you hear on this show. I really do hope that you can use this approach to reach your next business milestone. And now here's Wayne Lee with his executive win. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gord. It's a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is mine, and the pleasure will be the audience's to have someone with multi decades of experience in a discipline that you've put so much time into, and not only sort of taken it for the entertainment value that it has, but you've taken it way deeper in terms of what you do and the work that you do. And I'm so excited for the audience to hear this multi-layered perspective that you bring. I've also seen you in action. I've seen you do your thing. I've seen the impact that you can have on an entire ballroom full of people. And I've seen you actually, funny enough, at outdoor settings on thousands of people. Like, it's just unbelievable how many different places you've had a big impact on making the world a better place in the way that you do it. But a lot of people don't know you. So if you had to introduce yourself and tell us about the work that you do, please go ahead.
For sure. Thank you very much for those kind words, Gord. I know that I am blessed, truly grateful that I get to do what I love. So I'm doing where and what I do is on stage, feeling most alive, being an entertainer, an educator, and hopefully that empowers people to live a better life, plain and simple. A little bit deeper into it, years ago, I picked up the art and science of hypnosis after watching a show years ago where I was in disbelief going, hypnosis, this is crazy. This is wild. I don't know if I believe it until everything that was happening on stage. It was apparent to me that when I looked at my girlfriend, she was doing everything that they were doing. So she got hypnotized right beside me. It reeled me in like nothing else. I picked it up as a hobby, watched videos, read books, got mentors. And before I knew it, I turned from school teacher, classroom school teacher, to full-time hypnotist doing stage shows, as well as always taking that teacher in me with me to educate people on the power of the mind and more importantly, how you can use it to win.
I mean, it's so lucky that you've put in your reps. Do you know what I mean? When we think about sort of lifetime achievement awards that are deserved, and I love hearing that teacher piece. I wasn't aware of that
Yeah.
piece in there, and that's so neat that you bring that forward. Because when I saw your show, if we think again, like if I had my suspicions, silly, listen, before you worked, and I was like, hypnotism, come on. But I've seen it work, and I've seen how transformative it is for the
Yes.
people that come up on stage. And I've also seen you send out more than entertainment messaging to an audience, right? Like, why do you sort of have this combo going in your work?
I think because it's my calling, it's what I need to learn most. It's like I'm blessed and very early I had a curiosity about psychology, spirituality, and just how life works. So I was very, much imaginative kid that wanted to figure out, hey, this invisible world that we have our thoughts in, our imagination, then how does that connect with the physical world? And so I think that was the start of it. And knowing that in my life, my experiences, I need to learn that stuff. And so I'm very blessed to be able to apply myself, but then in some way just share it with people so they can use it in their life and have an impact. And again, the entertainment and education part, I think, has been the piece that has really been the difference maker in my life because I have so much passion of marrying the two. Because I also know that, being a classroom teacher, one of the toughest things is getting their attention and keeping their attention. It's no different than in corporate audiences and no different in life, more so than ever, because we have these digital devices and this world that's working so fast that in order to keep somebody's attention, it's harder now than ever. And so you got to come up with some really cool stuff. And that's entertaining. That's grabbing their attention and weaving a message in. So, and the coolest thing is I feel like I'm just getting started.
I think you are too, because this transformation piece. So the entertainment piece, you hook us all in. I've seen you. You can wow an audience. By the way, I'm going to recommend people go to waynelee.com like right away before I'll say it in the intro too. But you've got a great demo reel that actually captures quite a bit of this that I think people need to see because they're going to see not only the entertainment part and then all the pedigree of all the great places that you've worked for, but also then you do talk about this messaging that's in there. So how lucky that we have someone who took an interest in hypnotism, ditched the safety of teaching, and went off, in his own world and sort of got going and has had this multi-decade approach, which now, like you said, you're just getting started because the leaders that are listening to this show, and I really mean to pick up on this, you do transformational work for people, for whole audiences at a given time. And so the leaders are going to get a lot from listening to this as well. One of the first questions I always like to ask on the show is if you had to pick one of your biggest wins in your work, what would that win be and how would you describe it?
COVID is getting through COVID in a way that was very challenging, where everything shut down, and my wife and I pivoting and coming out with some of the most creative things that we can come out with to help others. And so definitely at the time, it was one of those things where it was like, what is next? How do we get through this? And the answers weren't there. And so it was a real learning experience in regards to how do I apply the things that I've taught? And it's really easy to apply that stuff when you're safe, when you're, got those reps in and you can just rely on that. And it's more challenging when you need to put yourself out there and go into new territory where it could be fearful. And it will be fearful most of the time. And then that's where you rise to the occasion. So the biggest win was where everything shut down. We were having our greatest year ever. COVID hit and everything was wiped away. And then out of that came this space, this time where my wife and I, without going into like a real long story, pulled so much of the things that I wanted to teach that I had not done before because I was doing shows, I was doing presentations and creating a coaching program and being able to help hundreds, if not thousands, that needed it through the COVID time. And then figuring out how to do that on a business level with the digital domain, how to, have my wife figure all that out. And we really came together and been able to then reintroduce that to my corporate clients and clients that are now having me on their stages for their events when the live events came. So it gave more impact, it gave more value add to help solve their problems, company wise and individual wise. So it was a portal that opened up for me and allowed me to share more of myself, more of my resources, and make more of a difference.
So you're a business owner. Your business is being with people in audiences. You're running, that's what you're doing for a long, long time. COVID comes along and shuts it all down. There's a fellow named Sean Hoff from Moniker Corporate Events that was on the show. Same thing. He's sitting there. It's March 2020, got $1 million on the books. Things are going to be great. There's not $1 million on the books, goes to zero in a month. He's got a team. In his case, you got your team. You're working with that as well. Shuts down, and they ended up having to pivot to another. In their case, they pivoted to online murder mysteries and tripled their revenue, which was just one of those stunning things. And you've said that already. You've said, wait a second, our business model got interrupted. One, there's some period of days in there, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, where it just wouldn't have been fun. I mean, you got great hair. You must have been pulling it all out. You know what I mean? In terms of what that was, right?
Losing it.
Right. And because that's a disaster for someone that model is in person, because now you can't do it in person. But you said you reacted and you pivoted. And not only did you pivot, but you pivoted to something meaningful because it got you to focus on some of those core concepts and pull them together in that online world that you hadn't done before. Are we describing that correctly?
Without a doubt. And as we talk here right now, Gord, there's something that comes up in the background for me. And what comes up is like a core belief. I call it a code of transformation. It's one of the terms that we came up with, is that we're always coding things, meaning creating meaning out of terms. And one of the codes, and it's a soundbite or a statement of the mind, is that, and I believed in this for so long, is I can handle whatever. I can handle it. I can handle whatever, a variation of that, no matter how bad it gets or how, the challenges come our way, is that I can handle it. And in the moments of, oh my God, or like I was probably, using a little bit different language there. In the background, there's this calmness that really articulated that belief. I can handle it.
I can handle it. That speaks to resilience. And don't we as entrepreneurs, in a sense, need that resilience to go through the peaks and valleys that it takes to be in that reality? We're in a new geopolitical times that actually impacts our reality as well. So that's another. There's never sort of not kind of peaks and valleys, but I can handle it is the message, and isn't that consistent with the work that you're doing? Not only again as an entertainer, but also as someone who's helping people to become aware of their own mindset and perhaps glean something from your experience around that. I can handle it, building their own resiliency. What a great thing to pass along.
Yeah. And again, I underline, like, when you hear hypnosis, it brings up a lot of meanings for different people. And there's a lot of myths and misunderstandings. And really, just even somebody saying this to themselves, I can handle it, is a hypnotic command. And when it becomes second nature and it becomes this habitual thought, that is hypnosis. Is that the challenge is that we've been hypnotized a lot of times to believe in things that don't necessarily serve us, or they're very negative in nature. So they're so powerful. That's the results that we get in accordance to those beliefs.
I can handle this.
Yeah.
Just again, a gift. If everyone pushed stop on the podcast right now and just walked away with that one piece, certainly for the leaders that listen to this show, they need that more often than ever. I talk about wins because so often leaders are talking about problems, losses. And I come at it from the wins perspective because what I'm finding is they don't actually have that muscle built out. They're really good at what's wrong, but they're not good at what's the win in terms of what we're talking about.
Yeah. And so it's a big win just to even adopt that belief at a subconscious level. And that takes, first of all, practice of just, saying that to themselves and knowing that they can do this, and look for evidence in their life. Is like, look at all the times that you've been crapped on and you handled that. You're still here, right? You're existing.
Still
You're
here. That's
moving
great.
through it.
I'm just going to help. If you can help me out, if you can summarize the win in like a sentence or two, give it a
Mhm.
shot, and then we'll go from there.
So the win is, I can handle it.
The win is I can handle it. It's COVID. I'm an entertainer. I work for audiences, but I can handle it. And that's the win. And that was where you kind of rose to your own top at that given moment in time. I love this. Now we got the win. I actually like to jump into what I call the anatomy of a win. So what is the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind the win? Now, when we talk about strategy, we're talking about what is your vision? What is your mission in life? Like that kind of thing. What are your goals? And that's pieces that really top out any strategic sort of approach to any business. And we've already heard a little bit about it, but is there any sort of strategic highlights that you think were a big part of this win?
Yeah. And it's funny that, we talked about like your business in terms of the word win. And out of COVID, I came up with a framework that is all built around the word win. Yeah. So
Great.
the win question, and there's a few different layers to this, but it helps people just kind of hook into, oh, that's a great question, or, I can use that. And so hopefully, people listening to this and watching this will, they'll be able to take one win away. So the first question is, what is next? Like, we were going through COVID, and it's like, okay, here's what is next? Like, and it got my wife and I to look at the vision of what is next for us. We don't necessarily know yet. If we're very curious and we come from that point of asking that question from a state of curiosity, it's like a kid that wonders. And I do believe that anything is possible. So coming from that belief, there is something that is going to come out of it. So what is next? And so my wife and I didn't necessarily know, like, and that a lot of times people will get stressed out because they don't know. They're like, oh, and, but asking it with curiosity, with an open mind, allowed us to see, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can start teaching more. Maybe I can um, put more coaching into my deliverables. So that was a big question, is what is next?
And you've
And
got all kinds of ways you've used the word win. I remember in the pre-interview, you've got sort of a whole list that I think people need to get access to because it makes a ton of sense. So what is next really is kind of a framing question that allows you to sort of have those fresh eyes in a moment of really high stress that gets you to go forward. So strategically, we can see that the vision in a sense, or sort of your whole theme is you're never kind of ruffled, or you might be ruffled, but you have a way out. Am I getting
yeah,
that in the zone?
exactly. Because you can come from what is next to a place of freak out, and you can come from a place of what is next from a place of curiosity and possibility. And so I think that's important. And that's actually the next question is, what's important now. And hopefully this is laying out the strategy and the groundwork here, because it'll all make sense with, your wins and the executive strategy here. What's important now is like, what do we need to take care of? Like, what's important? And like, okay, if revenue, if we need to look at that, we need to look at, okay, what's important, in terms of what are the imperative things that need to be taken care of. So that allowed us to create some tactical and strategic ways of putting it down on paper to make sure that we didn't like, we're not focusing on things that aren't important, if that makes sense.
How do we get a win? What is next? What's important now? So now this framework, and I think there's a few others that we're going to pick up along the way here because you put in so much good
Yeah,
effort.
yeah.
But what's nice is it's deep, right? Like I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not. It's really well guided and well thought out. And you can see the work that's been put in to allow someone to use these things to move forward. And I'm going to just sort of come back to the anatomy of win for just a second and say,
Sure.
we've got a strategy highlight. Anytime we have a strategy, we need a work plan. And the work plan is kind of like, what are the highlights along the way? COVID hits. What was the timeline that you feel you can sort of name in terms of number of months that it took to sort of ask your win acronyms and
Yeah.
get from sort of maybe not a great place, but maybe to move and get the win? Did it take 3 months? Did it take 12 months? Like, how many months did it take?
6 months.
Oh,
Yeah. 6 months.
that's pretty quick.
Yeah, like to know with some clarity. It wasn't meaning that, hey, that revenue's coming in to take care of things, but I think that in that time period we were clear on, which is another question: who is next? Who is next? Who do we need to reach out to? Because it's always a people that who is important, and so we ended up getting surrounding ourselves with great coaches that were doing great online and that had great models. So we started to study them. We started to hire a coach. And in that investment part, we started to then connect with our clients. Who is next? And really understand who is our client. It was a little different than before COVID. And doing those things allowed us to create some traction in about 6 months. And I'd have to go back to look at go to the exact timeline, but 6 months, and then in that year, it was amazing to see what we had done. And one
Well, and
story
I'm
too.
glad to hear that you had the foundation in there to not leave the business, right?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, that was a time when you'd be thinking, well, what if this isn't going to work anymore? Like, it would be that kind of deep. But what I'm hearing is you had the resiliency based on your work, that you were able to sort of have that framework to fall back on and then implement to get things moving forward.
without a doubt. And one little story too is that I'm a real big believer in synchronicity. Is that when you focus upon what you want and you have faith and desire, the people, places, things, events, opportunities start to come to you as if by magic. The magic is within. I believe we all have this great capacity to create something out of nothing, turn the invisible into the visible. And when we get too, how could you say, certain about it, and we create tension, we actually stop ourselves from letting in other possibilities. And so one of the great things, one of the great wins during COVID, and this is a specific one, is I put it out there that we're doing this coaching program and that we're going to help a lot of people. And I get to really focus upon my passion in regards to coaching people with all the stuff that I know. And out of the blue, somebody that I worked with years ago in the early 2000s came out and asked me if I could coach him because he knew that he was going through some health challenges and knew that I had some space to do this. I said yes. And that ended up turning into one of the largest contracts out of COVID, which became like a savior, a blessing. And it also taught me a valuable lesson about valuing my services and not to undervalue, and how impactful it was. So there was a lot going on there, but that was one big win that I think was a big part of the whole COVID thing for me.
I don't mean to get into the exact numbers. I know we covered it in the pre-interview, but this idea of you put out a number and he multiplied that number because he saw
By
your
10.
value at 4 times that number. Is that fair?
Exactly. Yeah. Now it was
Right?
four
So
times.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You put out a number. This is what my coaching service is worth. He came back and said, gosh, that's undervalued, because he knew the value that you bring. And it's funny because if people got in touch with you personally to find out what those numbers are, you hear them and they're big numbers, but for this person at this moment, that number, it was a mutual interaction. You know what I mean? It wasn't that he was spending a lot of money. It was that he was getting a lot of value, and you were able to provide that. And that was a saving grace for your business during that time, at a point when you had put it out to the world saying, hey,
Yeah.
we're in a jam. It's COVID days. And you said, who is next? So then
Yeah.
you put it out and you found that and made that occur. And there's a through line running here. It's funny. I often, with people I meet here, I talk about secret sauce. So there's sort of a readiness meets disaster, but
Yes.
readiness allows you to kind of have that resiliency all the way through. Wow, this is so fun. Strategy, work plan. We're working through there. And then the third one is people. So we're already starting to hear that. So, there's people involved in a win. We talked about this key player who came along as a key client at a given time. You brought these wonderful coaches into your world. How would you describe your own attitude during this time? COVID hits, from the COVID hit moment on through to the evolution over the 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. I think and this is one of I'll go into this question that I teach at my presentations and my training workshops. I had to ask my question. I had to ask this to myself quite a bit. So the attitude came from possibility. I had to really amp up that this will work out. I can handle it. And the question is this, it's a win question, and it is, what if now? What if now this all just comes together? What if now this is very challenging and I can handle it? What if now? And it really allowed me to turn the negative into a positive and have faith and trust and allow things to unfold. Didn't mean that we didn't do our work. We did what we needed to control things in terms of what's in our control, do the action quotas, and then just allow things to happen. And so the attitude was one of the coaches that I've had over the years said, Wayne, the greatest form of creation is when you're doing it in the moment to teach others. And it just blew my mind, because I'm like, we're doing everything right now in the moment, real time. And that's one of the greatest learning lessons. It's also the greatest time to teach others. So when we were coaching others, we would bring that into the mix of we're all living this right now. And so it's not
So
about
good, right? So what if now, which then is the prompt, and it's so funny. You've made it sound so eloquent and simple. It takes a lot of effort to come up with that, because then what that unravels. You say that to your clients when you're coaching. You use it on yourself as you kind of move forward, but it allowed you, in a sense, to have a structure when your attitude inevitably. It's nice to put rose-colored glasses on and see backwards. There's tough days in there. There's no doubt. But the what if now, and that framework, and again, the faith that you've got in sort of your abilities and those things to pull forward, along with knowing how to gather the right people around you with the right attitude going forward, you made it work. It's just remarkable. So we've got these people things. And then again, we're going to do a recap on the wins. I've heard 4 of them so far, I think,
For
as
sure.
we're doing our bingo card, and then we'll make sure we get them kind of mapped out. There's an element, the 4th step is operational in the anatomy of a win. So operationally, you move from live in person to online. There's an element there. Like, what was that learning curve like?
Oh, big time. Operational. My wife, I give her so much credit for having the attitude that we'll figure this out. We can handle this. Again, going back to that mindset, and then going online and just putting in the work, like whether it took 8 hours a day to figure out how to digitally put up a website, how to do a new CRM, how to do this autoresponder. It was just like, I look back and sometimes it's scary, because I'm like, oh my goodness, we did that. At the time, if we knew how much work it would take, we might have been like, no. But we just, what if now we put in the work? What if now we did this and it all works out? What if now this is what we need to do? So it really was something where operational. I'll give you an example. I've been doing the live events for years, for 20, 30 years now, but like when the COVID hit, 25 years. And it was very much autopilot, in the sense of, we need to reach out to past customers. We can do this online. We send an email. We have some stuff out digitally. Like, in regards to assets that we don't have to think much of. We got social media. Now it was like, how do we put up a website that collects everybody and then we drip out? How do we do these Zoom calls that we can record and then put it into a coaching? How do we even like what's the format of getting people into the coaching program? So there was that strategic part, and then operationally, how do we implement all that? So it was a big learning curve. And it was awesome because we learned a lot. Was it painful at times? Yes, but that's the growth period too, is where you're creating that tension and moving forward with it. And after all of that, then we came out on the other side. We didn't need everything after live events were going, yet we sure had this extra deliverable that was there, that was part of it. It's just we went back to the live events and we had this great value add and offering for groups that now I can do executive coaching. Now I can do some group coaching in the mix of all of that.
Incredible. So, in this tough time, the COVID time, because you're live in person, now you've had to bolt on this other asset and the
Yeah.
hundreds, thousands of hours that it takes to sort of get there, work things through on that given day when that button doesn't work. Like you're in those moments occur as well. But at the end, you've come out with this other, expanded part of your business and the confidence that it gives you to know again that if you need to pivot, you have sort of that working muscle.
Yeah.
And you've got a team that you're working with to get that done. Really cool. So we've heard
It's
strategy,
it's
work plan. Yeah.
It's funny, Gory, that we're talking about this and things are popping up that I forget that I did. It's like we did this free challenge. Like a free challenge is like a lead magnet to get people into this 21-day subconscious reset. So this was a challenge where people would come on with me on Facebook and Zoom. It would be simulcast in regards to primarily Facebook, but then we record everything. And we had to do it like 6 times just to really get the hang of it and I remember the first time I was going live, I'm like, it's not working, Nicole. And then I had to think, oh yeah, I got to take some of my own medicine and stay in a calm state. Humbling, vulnerable, and it's where growth happens, right? Is that space of newness and figuring things out.
It's so funny that in those humble lessons, every leader that listens to this show has got some of their own. They'd bring on with that big smile, and thank goodness you're still here. Do you know what I mean? Because those
Yeah.
moments when you're live, I've been live and there's no volume, and anyway. I'd go into my own sort of war stories as well. So we heard strategy, work plan, people, operations. Finally, there's results,
Yeah.
qualitative and quantitative results. Quantitatively, you described the ability to generate enough revenue to get through that time. Quantitatively,
Yes.
you've described the building out of assets that are, was a big part of what it is.
Yeah.
How would you describe sort of the quantitative and qualitative results that you got from this win?
I would say that like if looking pre-COVID, the growth aspect, quantitative, like was so big in terms of our character and our skill sets of moving forward. From a financial point of view, we didn't reach what we had before, because it was a completely different model, yet we sustained. We got through it and we were probably about 2/3 of the way there in regards to doing that. And so it really was a big win in that sense that, here's something that I've done for how many years, like 25 years. And then all of a sudden it's a whole different model. It's a different shift. And we still did really well in terms of creating that whole business shift and being able to learn so much and get it to that level where yeah, I'm looking as like, wow, the group coaching and the individual coaching that came out of it, it was awesome. I'd have to look at the exact numbers, but my guess is that we were about 2/3 there. And then that springboarded us to once live events started to come out again, where it was like, wow,
And
this.
you were strong, and you were stronger because you built that thing out. Qualitatively, how did it feel?
It felt great. It felt great in regards to, there's a sense of the imposter syndrome that comes up when you're doing one thing and some people will say, hey, but you're a peak performance expert or coach. I felt so much more stepping into that and owning that I've helped people with the coaching. I've helped people with the group coaching and I've made some substantial impacts for these people. So it felt great. It felt like I'm doing more.
So good. What a rich time to spend with you here in the interview. I'm just going to recap some wins.
For sure.
You've put some effort in. So I think you named 4. I don't know if there's 20, but at least we need to hear the 4 that you mentioned. But just sort of give us a recap of WIN and the sequencing, because you got a sequence there as well. Go ahead.
For sure. Yeah. And the sequence may be something that comes to people a little differently. I think that the framework is there, and use what works in its entirety. And it may be the sequence. First is, what is next? Like, what is next? And I'm going to do a full circle, and then I'll come back to the last question, which I think is really powerful because of what I teach in my sessions and my keynotes. What is next is like, you have to have that vision. It gets people to propel. Like, what are the goals? What are the things you want? So what is next is general enough to open that door, and then get specific. And what's important now? Taking care of what's really important. Like, what is next? What are the things? Is it the revenue? Is it, you got to do the nitty gritty? You got to do the fundamentals. What is important? Because a lot of times people will chase things all over the place instead of narrowing down what is next. Is the 3 important things that you need to focus in on. Who is next? Like, it's always somebody you got to reach out to. It's not always, somebody that is a client is going to pay you the money so you can impact them. Somebody that's a mentor, somebody that's a coach, somebody that you can learn from. Who is next? Those are very important things to define. Like, who are those people that you need to connect with in this time period?
What is next? Who is next? What's important now? There was
Yeah.
one more.
What if now? That's the full circle moment. Is that I think I really started with that question, Gord. If I look at my processes, that here's something that hit. If I have that belief that I can handle anything, I can handle it. What if now this is the greatest opportunity that we're not even seeing? What if now this is a time for growth? What if now this is something where I can impact more people? What if now this may look terrible, and yet it may be the best thing that ever happened?
I
It
can
always
feel
takes that.
I can feel how lucky the people in your audience are. I've been in your audience. I can feel how lucky the people that you coach are. And then how lucky again for our audience here today to hear that wonderful summary of all that hard work that you've put into something that somebody can hear that sounds straightforward, that they can take forward for the rest of their lives. What a great gift that you're creating for sort of the work that you do, the entertainment that you bring, the laughter, along with this serious messaging that you're doing in your work. Wayne, if people need to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
Just go to my website, waynelee.com, and there's a free download that people can download, something that hundreds of thousands of people have already gone through, called the MEGA method, the mental endgame activation method. And all my socials are there too. So there's lots of goodies they can devour in regards to the videos and the stuff that I have out on my social media.
I can't sort of leave without asking you to give me 1 or 2 sentences that you pass along. I know you give me the resilience piece, you give me the wins piece, but if you had to sort of if you had leaders in front of you, a group of leaders, and you had 1 or 2 sentences to give them as to put a sort of bow on this interview that we've done, what would that sort of message be from you?
They can figure this out. This is a short soundbite that I've put on shirts that I sign off with. It is, be the magic and feel it.
Wayne, be the magic and feel it. Thank you for being on the show.
Gord, it's a pleasure.
Ask great questions, work with the right people, and tell yourself, I can handle this. That is how Wayne Lee wins every day. Thank you, Wayne, for your inspiring win. Now, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, then make sure to check out our upcoming episodes, which include how a values-driven leader built an exclusive business model in recruiting and HR, winning with Stephanie Rodden-Kirchen, the CEO of Lotus Group. And if you are a leader who really wants to learn how the Executive Wins coaching session can help you to grow your confidence and inspire your team, then visit executivewins.com to learn how. You can also subscribe to the Executive Wins monthly newsletter to stay up to date on the podcast, live events, education opportunities, and more. Visit executivewins.com/newsletter to sign up. And if you enjoyed today's episode, Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a fellow leader. And don't forget to check out our resources and links in the show notes. And keep listening to the Executive Wins podcast for more inspiring wins that will help you to grow yourself, your team, and your entire business. Thanks for listening to the Executive Wins podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe as we bring you more inspiring wins from outstanding leaders so you can grow your business.